Hey, hello people. How are we doing today? So we've talked extensively about creating a financial structure. We started by explaining the concept of budgeting because budgets are the basic foundation for your financial structure. And then from there, we talked about the need to cap your expenses because if your expenses are not capped, you're going to end up spending much more than is necessary, and that will keep you perpetually tied to the same place for a long time. And we also talked about savings and why your savings is key to your future growth. In other words, if you are making an income and you're not saving anything, the chances that you're going to grow, you know, or over time will be very limited. And that's why those two things are so very important. And we also stated that it's important that after capping your expenses, that you also monitor them. Yes, so you check if you are staying within the boundaries that you have set, or if you are perpetually going over that boundary. And if that is the case, you need to make adjustments as well. Now, the meaning of this is that discipline is required, which means the discipline to not only record but also monitor and then learn and make adjustments from the observable results. And then we also talked about an emergency fund, which is the first layer of your savings. In fact, it's the most important part of your savings because once you have that safety net, every other thing you do from then on will be a lot more relaxed, so you won't be under pressure. So for example, imagine you took an investment that is supposed to take maybe 5 years before it matures, and then you have an emergency or you lose your income, and the only way to survive is by liquidating your asset. Now the problem with that is that you're first and foremost going to take a hit on that investment because most investments only become profitable after the period it is expected to stay in the investment. So if you're going to cash it out early, you're going to pay, penalties, and many other things are going to affect that. So, but when you have your emergency fund, you have something to keep you going while you think about your next step. And this is why it's very important to build your emergency fund before you begin to talk about building investments. Now, I've talked to a group of people, several group of people about investing, and the concept of investment is is a future that you foresee. So, for example, if you want to own a commercial property in a particular place, it's important for you to first and foremost find out how much does the commercial property sell in that area, so you have an idea of what you're trying to build for, right? So investment is more or less like taking a peep into the future and deciding how you want it to look like for you. So it's not always about the quick gains that many people think about. Oh, I wish I had invested in Apple. I wish I had invested in Tesla. I wish I had done XYZ. Now, the truth is, there are also people who invested in all these companies, at the wrong time, and it hurts them. Yes, so that tells you that it's not just about putting money into something that looks to be profitable. Is also the timing as well, which means when and it takes some form of foresight to be able to tell that certain companies are going to do well long term. Yes, but the question then is, do you have the patience to wait the long term? Because it's easy to say, oh, I wish I had done this 10 years ago. I wish I had done this 20 years ago. Yes, you wish, but wishes are not horses. So you have to see that now is the time to prepare for the next 20 years. So if you decide, oh, I want to have so much in savings or investment by in the next 20 years, then you have to map out a plan, which means the remainder of your savings after your emergency fund has been separated can then be channeled in that direction. So you're saving, waiting for opportunities, because like we said, your savings is supposed to bring opportunities to you. It can be an opportunity to add value to yourself in terms of a new certificate, a new skill, something that takes your earning potential higher, because the best form of investment is yourself. The first and most important form of investment is yourself, because if you like invest in real estate or any of the other um, asset classes, if you don't invest in yourself, you're not going to have the ability to manage the output of some of those asset classes, which means that the first and most investment must be on yourself. How much do you know about whatever it is you're open to? Some people want to become real estate moguls, but they're not they're not gathering any knowledge about that. They're not trying to learn about real estate. They're not trying to learn about anything. They're just waiting and hoping for something to happen in their future. Yes, so the most important investment will be yourself, investing in yourself, and putting in the time, putting in the resources that is required. Some people go to real estate courses, real estate schools, and they come back and implement some of the things that they learn. And you see them making results, and you want to do it without going through that process. That's going to be difficult. So it's important to start first and foremost from investing in yourself, right? Identify what direction you want to go, where you want to go, and then from there begin to map out what is needed. So that's why in one of my videos I talked about processes, why it's important to identify the process that you need to get to where you're going. And once you're able to identify that, it makes it a lot easier for you to go from point A to point B, because then you know what the process is and the requirements of that process will be. Yes, so that's why it's important to understand that the journey to investment is not just even only about yourself, it's a generational thing. If you think about investment in the very long term is long term, which means it's not only about you, it's about the next generation and the generation after them. Yes, so the first example you want to think about is, if you look at all the wealthy people in Nigeria today, if you look at all of them, many of them had that journey started in the generation before theirs. The richest black man, Dangote, had help from his uncle, which is a generation before his own, Dan Tata. And many will say, oh, but he's not the only one who got help. But every other person who has done that, Otedola, for example, his father too, you know, was also well to do, and it tells you why it's important for you as a person to begin to think about the next generation, not just about yourself. Yes, so it's important for you to understand that investing is about not just you, but also the generations after you. Bible says that a good man leaves inheritance for his children's children, not just his children, which means two generations. Now, how many of us had something left for us by our grandfathers or even our parents? But you should change that trend, which means you should think about your children's children by putting in something that they can leverage on to build greater wealth. And that is very important. If you're thinking about wealth as just about yourself, you're going to miss the train. But if you're thinking about wealth, in multiple generations, then you're going to sit down and do the work that is required. Yes, so we'll continue in some other video. Thank you for listening.